Ghosts are pretty epic. Still to this day, they remain one of the most popular horror entities in all of fiction. We've all seen that classic transparent white design with that spooky face before at some point. Whether you refer to them as specters or spirits, phantoms or wraiths, there have been many famous and unique ghosts in fiction, either expanding their abilities and quirks from just phasing through walls to even reinventing the very anatomy of ghosts themselves. So with all that said, which ghosts are the most powerful? And which ones should just stay in whatever haunted house they came from? I am your host, Browner Hero, and this is the Spirit Skirmish. Now, before we begin, I have a few ground rules. Because ghosts are widely used in fictional media, sadly not everyone will be able to join the rumble. However, there are 28 ghosts joining the fight, with a good mix of the iconic and the obscure. Second, the character must be able to have some basic ghost abilities in order to qualify for this video, which includes either being transparent in appearance or having intangibility powers. So, for instance, the ghost of Captain Cutler does not count, since Cutler's costume is not able to phase through solid objects, and while Spy from TF2 can turn invisible, he does so using a device and once again can't phase through solid matter. Also, it should go without saying, spirits from Super Smash Bros. Ultimates definitely don't count either, as they mainly serve as a commemoration to the many characters in video gaming history, bundled with a CPU that mimics and references their abilities and roles in their respective games. Also, only one character per franchise. It'll be a real haunting otherwise looking through franchises that have ghosts as their main focus. LEGO once again is an exception to this rule, as they have multiple franchises. Lastly, the characters aren't ranked based on my opinion of them, but rather their abilities, and a rough estimate as to which one would win if we place these characters in an arena battle scenario with blast zones, along with mechanical and organic corpses, as well as if we hypothetically pretend that these ghost characters don't have immortality and invincibility, so that everyone will be in a level playing field, and no outside help aside from resurrected soldiers. Now, ladies and gentlemen, phantasms and souls, let the Spirit Skirmish commence! I feel so bad placing Wrinkly Kong last on my list, but in terms of her abilities there is barely anything to speak of, aside from detecting golden bananas and her usual ghost intangibility. I should note that she used to be a school teacher, and along with her husband Cranky Kong, she is the only Kong able to do math correctly. That said, she can't really do much else, and hence her placement. Let's all admit, Zero is adorable, but I feel he has the same issues as Wrinkly Kong, as his only notable power is intangibility. Again, his nose could light up though, that's something. He did star as the main protagonist of an official comic book series called Zero's Journey, and according to a message by comic creators Tokyo Pop, a reason for this decision was because they wished Zero had more scenes to himself, as he mostly followed Jack Skellington loyally throughout the movie. Sadly, Jack isn't on this list, and all in all, Zero is just a regular dog which can float around. Another character I feel very bad for putting low on the list, especially since her life was cut short by Tom Riddle prior to the events of Harry Potter, but let's be real here, does Moaning Myrtle have any abilities aside from colonizing Hogwarts bathrooms and, you guessed it, intangibility?
Let's all throw books at Myrtle because she can't feel it.
Well, she can move pretty fast if she chooses to, but she isn't able to hold solid matter easily. She may have caught Ron off guard, but in this battle, she is unfortunately small fry in comparison. Up next, we have a character from a famous ghost movie called Ghosts, and a character who is universally synonymous with ghost characters. Already, we have our only tie with Sam Wheat and Casper, and believe me when I say this, but I have a reason. They literally have the same abilities. Both Casper and Sam Wheat can hold solid objects, and they can't pass on to the afterlife until their, and I quote, unfinished business is settled. meaning that they can't go on to the next life unless any unresolved mysteries in their life are dealt with. In Sam's case, this rule is more zigzagged, as he chooses not to go to heaven after he was shot and chooses to find who arranged his killing to protect his wife.
I love you, Molly. I've always loved you.
Both are ultimately too wholesome and nice to even want to willingly fight anyone, and the motivations tend to involve protecting a loved one, especially overall the case of Caspar, as he had it rough. He died alone of pneumonia when he was 12, and as a ghost, he is constantly abused by his uncles, but still holds no grudges for anyone. They're still both low on the list because if I imagine them both as humans, still alive, then they don't possess too much of a threat, and they most likely just want to get on with their daily lives.
Leave away from me!
Despite their iconic role of being the main threat of arcade classic Pac-Man, Inky, Blinky, Pinky and Clyde have not been shown to cause the most harm. They can kill Pac-People like Pac-Man by simply touching him, but none of our other contestants are Pac-People. Then again, neither do we have power pellets. If it wasn't for them appearing in a video game associated with gaming history in general, I would have excluded them out entirely. High Five Ghost is a similar case to our Thai entrance in the previous category. He is a kind, logical, and supportive friend of Muscle Man, and really to anyone working in the park.
I'm Celia, by the way.
High five, Ghost!
But he does have a couple of extra abilities that give him the edge over Sam, Wheat, and Casper. He can produce 4 additional limbs for himself, as well as shield someone. If regular Showa movie is anything to go by, he's the first ghost on this list to have some form of combat experience, as he piloted a mech with missiles which incapacitated some soldiers. But that's in the hypothetical future, and not the present day High Five Ghost. You know what? High Five Ghost doesn't even deserve to be in an arena death battle. I'll just hire him as a private musician to play some songs for the luxury lounge guests while the chaos unfolds outside.
Go find out what's keeping Waspinator.
Yup, I've decided to count Starscream, but only his Beast Wars incarnation. After the 1986 Transformers movie where Starscream was killed by Galvatron, it was revealed that he had an indestructible spark, but since his body was destroyed, his spark could only drift endlessly. So I count that as a ghost, especially since he's the first character to demonstrate a staple in ghost abilities: possession. In his only episode in Beast Wars, he spent it possessing Waspinator because everything bad always happens to Waspinator, and he successfully almost manages to take command of the Predacons, which is very impressive.
You will attack the Predacon base!
The Pred base? What is this?
It's called treachery!
However, since his body was destroyed by Galvatron, his space form is his spark, and he can no longer use his iconic null rays. So, provided he doesn't possess a contestant and make false alliances, he could just be flung around like a ball. Talk about being a ghost of your former self, am I right?
You betrayed me!
And now, presenting the most incompetent deities to ever exist, we have the creators from F-Zero GX. Remember them? You know, from the story mode? No, that's exactly my point here. The creators are spectral gods who claim they created the whole universe, and Deathborn, and they reside in the Champion's Belt. Somehow, after having a hissy fit against Captain Falcon, berating him with such strategy that there are no universal forces.
To tell you the truth, there are no universal forces. What?
They threaten to take out his soul and turn him into their new creation. So, does Captain Falcon go head-to-head against the creators? Well, no, they just have a race against one another, because this is F-Zero, all of your problems are solved by racing. But because of the true god of plot armor intervening, Captain Falcon prevails and the creators die. So overall, you get three beings where their only real ability is to converge with one another to replicate an F-Zero machine. Their claims of creating the universe and being able to absorb souls to make creations sound like an arena-winning formula, but they are rendered not to be an informed ability since they're beaten by Captain Falcon, baby!
Come off it! You think you can beat me? No way!
Next time, don't challenge someone in a race to bet for their soul, just bloody do it!
Oh, it's you. Okay, but I didn't know you had your license.
Is Slimer iconic? Absolutely. Because of this countdown, it encouraged me to watch the original Ghostbusters, which remains one of the most iconic and memorable movies of the 80s. But is Slimer the best fighter? No, not really. He has a habit of eating whatever food he finds and causing minor destruction, but the only real feat he performed was sliming Dr. Venkman.
He slimed me.
That's great! Actual physical contact!
While it would catch others off guard, if only even for a brief moment, that's about where his effectiveness in combat ends. The ghosts from Majora's Mask have a pretty unique ability on this list. They can abduct people or items with some eye beams, which certainly helps with dealing with some of our previous entrants. They also work best during the night as they disappear in the early morning. They do have a major weakness, as they are killed easily with arrows. Now, while it is true that technically none of our contestants have bow and arrows, their abducting ability is all they have, and they don't nearly have as much variety of their attacks as others in this countdown. For the record, I never played this game, but I really admire the concept of murdered soul suspect. You play as Detective Ronan O'Connor, who is killed during an investigation. Since he is a ghost, like Sam Wheat and Casper from earlier, he can't go into the afterlife until his debts are settled. So, he makes it his mission to solve the mystery on who is behind his murder. It's a really cool idea. Shame about a Metacritic response though. Being a detective, Ronan has some interesting abilities that tie into his profession. He can teleport in short distances, and can pick up psychic residue in order to see the past and deduce the crime. He can also kill demons by ripping out their souls, but since Ronan is up against ghosts whose base form is their souls and therefore can't really be killed in this way, he wouldn't have access to that ability. But the upside is that he may have a better fighting chance. While he was still living, he also carried a revolver, which could hypothetically kill our last entrant due to its strange nature. He also has an interesting subversion of his ability to possess people. While he can possess people, he can't control them, but he has access to their sight and hearing as well as their conversations. The reason why I placed him higher than Starscream is because Ronan at least has a physical body and therefore could be able to fend off Starscream's spark. Combining all of that, and we have our first actual fighter in this countdown. But he isn't higher as his powers aren't nearly as extravagant as others on this list. I rest my case.
I know the truth about your death, but I still don't know the truth about mine.
Now we have one of two LEGO villains, the first being Lady Evelina, the main antagonist of Hidden Side. She's cunning, cruel, plans to take over Newbury High, and that's it. For a main baddie, she is quite unremarkable and is a very flat character all things considered. But she does have an interesting ability where she can throw gloop to haunt buildings or humans, can teleport and can possess humans and turn them into a Gloomby. But even for a somewhat generic Doomsday villain, that is simply not enough. Okay, so as it turns out, while I was making this video, Lady E apparently has the ability to absorb souls, which is something which I did not expect at all. But all she really did with it was like create a portal and summon a bigger enemy, but one of our rules is no outside help, so Yeah, that's the reason why I didn't rewrite this part of the script to factor in that part, because if it gave her a much more significant power boost instead, then maybe Lady E could have been a bit higher, but yeah, just wanted to mention it. The amazing world of Gumball is filled with many quirky characters, an eyeball with wings, an angry 8-bit-like creature, and a T-Rex who is somehow able to participate in school like the rest of the main cast. One of the more initially introverted members in Miss Simeon's classroom is the resident ghost and emo chick Carrie. She can possess people, teleport, and summon portals by speaking Latin. She is skilled at making potions, like when she made a love potion for instance in an attempt to fall in love with Darwin, and she is the first ghost on our list to use telekinesis, being able to control objects with her mind, and she can bring others along when she teleports, something which our other ghost contestants weren't able to do so far. Initially, when making this video, I included these characters as a joke. Considering they came from a Nickelodeon sitcom that everyone forgot, I thought that they would come last place. But upon looking at its wiki, I was seriously dead wrong. How is the Prestons, a family of ghosts who do nothing but muck around with a living mortal family, is more powerful than the spirit of a war commander and is supposedly powerful than for ghosts? How? I really don't get it.
I'm coming for you, Hathaway. Be afraid. Be very afraid.
Trust me, I have problems.
They won't have the advantage of being invisible because, well, they're up against other ghosts, but they do have a plethora of abilities, which includes creating illusions that anyone could see, conjure up items like clothing, telekinesis but to a less powerful degree in comparison to Carrie, shapeshifting, elasticity, and size manipulation. I did not know what I was getting into when researching the Prestons, but there are two things that keep them from advancing higher on the list. The power of these abilities depend on their ghost level, ranging on a scale from 1 to 13, with Ray Preston being the most powerful at level 10. Ultimately, the real deciding factor was, do they have combat experience? No. About the only things they did in combat was when the Prestons assisted the Thundermans in stopping the Green Ghoul. While Louis Preston does a lot of pranks which does make him more unpredictable to an extent,
Are you sure this is safe? No!
he's also the weakest ghost at level 4. When it all comes down to it, they are just a normal family with fancy abilities that can barely be used for proper fighting, and therefore could be maybe relatively easily defeated. That being said, I do think Miles Preston would be great friends with Casper and Myrtle Warren, provided they live long enough in the battle to do so. Since we are talking about ghosts, mentioning one of the spirits from A Christmas Carol was obviously a given, considering its famous status as a Christmas tale. My favourite of the three is the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come, which has, almost, been consistently portrayed as a silent entity who shows Ebenezer Scrooge his fate and future if he does not change his ways. Despite his Grim Reaper-esque appearance, he does not wield a scythe or have any fighting skills of the sort. So, why is he higher than the likes of Ronan O'Connor and Carrie? Well, like I mentioned, he can show anyone the future, and teleport people instantly to an important location away from a battlefield. Depending on the character, even the ones higher on this list, this could completely scar them for life or traumatize them. He can't fight, sure, but what he can do is show you a fate worse than death without the slightest form of communication. Almost.
Oh my god, you did it.
That's what he sounds like.
Why are you like this?
I was really tempted to include Ghost Toast on this list, but despite having Ghost in his name, he is canonically a ghoul, so he doesn't count. Ghost Toast, my love! Why? Wait, didn't I do this joke last year? Yes, you did, you idiot! Fortunately, there is generally an abundance of ghost characters in the Skylanders universe, including Swapfor's core Grim Creeper. Grim Creeper is the first character on this list to be a bog-standard fighter through and through, hence his modest placement in this countdown. He could swing his scythe and control it, and he can also detach himself from his armor, which allows him to mark up to 5 enemies, and then his living armor will attack them one by one. and he does not need to worry about his body being damaged, as it could defend for itself too. Grim Reaper is a capable fighter to be sure, however despite being a ghostly Grim Reaper, his attacks are a little bit too simple and basic in comparison to others in this countdown. Although not inherently a ghost herself, Ava Starr, aka Ghost, demonstrated the basic ability to phase through walls, or molecular disequilibrium as she calls it, hence her inclusion on this list. She also has enhanced strength and durability, but what really puts her above Grim Reaper is her combat training. At a young age, due to the mutation of quantum energy caused by the explosion that ended the lives of both her parents, she became a stealth operative for S.H.I.E.L.D., spying, stealing, and killing under orders, which explains why she's a master martial artist, acrobat, and assassin.
Call off the ants, Scott.
Ghost wears a suit made by S.H.I.E.L.D. to keep control of her powers more easily, and allows her to better control her ability to disappear and reappear. It sure did make her a formidable opponent for Ant-Man and the Wasp, but when fighting against other ghosts who have a good portion of her abilities, her main advantage is lost, and you're left with a super soldier with otherwise lethal combat skills. Also, I just realized she looks very similar to a Titanfall pilot outfit.
You were wrong about me, Sensei! You said Destiny didn't want me to be the Green Ninja. Well, I make my own destiny, and now yours is coming to an end!
Only barely making it to the top 10, we have a fan-favorite villain from LEGO Ninjago in the form of Moro. Moro was the elemental master of wind, which you can use to a sincerely great effect, like trapping the Destiny's bounty and cancelling out Spinjitzu attacks. Additionally, if Moro is overwhelmed by enemies, he could also use the power of wind to push enemies away from a safe distance. Like the rest of the ninja trained by Sensei Wu, he is an expert swordsman and martial artist, and can use the power of air jitsu. He also takes possession to a whole new level, as not only can he possess living beings but also non-living items like statues as well as a heap of sand. Also, it should be mentioned in terms of feats that Moro was able to control Lloyd's body for the majority of the possession season. It just goes to show how much willpower he has to completely control and take the identity of someone else, and better yet, he could even mimic the voices of those he possessed. Although Moro can be disintegrated by a watery grave, even with that glaring weakness, you tell me if there's a better ghost ninja out there.
You fight someone unarmed? That's a good question. Yes!
What is better than one assassin being able to turn invisible and phase through walls? 2. Meet the twins from The Matrix Reloaded. Not only are the twins able to switch between a corporeal and physical form with ease, but they also are competent with knives and they are proficient with guns. They were rather worthy foes for Trinity and Morpheus, but initially they may seem rather basic in contrast to the other ghosts we looked at so far. But there is one special ability which gives them a slight leg up. If their physical bodies are damaged, they can heal themselves by changing into their ghost forms, which they take advantage of in spades. Unfortunately, on the flip side, it is also their biggest detriments too. If they sustain heavy damage like an explosion, then they will dissipate and render offline, a weakness only Morpheus found out by some quick thinking, which overall shows how formidable the twins are. But arguably even more formidable than the twins is No-Face from one of Studio Ghibli's most famous films, Spirited Away. No-Face does not seem like a top 10 contender at first with his constant stutters and somewhat harmless appearance, but let me tell you, when he wants to be, he is very destructive. He could vomit towards a particular target and transform something like mud into gold, which admittedly it's very useless in a battle like this. He is mostly famous for his power to mimic others by eating a creature to copy their traits like their abilities and voice. The more he absorbs both food and spirits, the more powerful and bigger he gets, making No-Face an elongated, creepy version of Kirby. Since some of our previous and later entries can be considered as creatures, if No-Face successfully consumes them, then No-Face could actually almost win this battle with ease. A keyword almost, as some ghosts above him can outsmart him. I knew that for this video I had to sneak in a Pokemon despite my complete lack of knowledge of the franchise. so I turned to my most reliable source of information, Just Hero, who knows about Pokemon much more than I do. So he gave a brief summary of Gengar's powers and abilities. But if you like Pokemon, you will absolutely love this channel, and I recommend you to check it out. Back on topic, Gengar has some standard abilities like levitating, disappearing, shooting shadow balls, and elemental punches. But he has two abilities that make him one of the strongest ghost characters. He can enter another Pokemon's dreams and eat them to gain health back. Useful if one of our contestants is caught napping during the battle. To my personal surprise, he is also well versed in the element of poison, being able to stun other Pokemon by licking them and using toxic based attacks. Oh yeah, he could also Mega Evolve and Gigantamax, whatever that is. As you could tell, I don't know anything about Pokemon. And he can use all these abilities against other ghost-type Pokemon. Let's just hope that No-Face won't eat him, because it'll just be a disaster for all of us.
Damen und Herren, Johann Kraus, at your service.
An awesomely unique ghost to round out on before we get to the top 5, we have Johann Kraus, specifically from Hellboy 2 The Golden Circle. Kraus was formerly a human who turned into a gaseous spectre due to an accident, and now has a suit of armor to contain himself. If you thought Moro was the jack of all trades in regards to possession, Johann Kraus takes the ability to a whole new insane degree. Because of this new form, he can evaporate bits of himself called electroplasty, which can reanimate any living, dead, organic, and mechanical beings briefly from a distance. He also has a latch he can open from the suit to release himself and completely possess someone else until that body is destroyed. Best demonstrated when Hellboy and Kraus fought against the Golden Army. We finally also get an interesting variation of intangibility. Not only can he obviously phase through walls, but he can also go through mechanical objects and solve or fix them from the inside out. Man, now I definitely know who to call if my family spoiler is faulty again. Better yet, since I'm using the movie incarnation, he doesn't have the glaring weakness of slowly dissipating from existence if his true form is exposed for too long. Though Kraus has many advantages, durability of his suit is not one of them. In contrast to Grim Creeper, his suit does not have any form of defense, and if it's destroyed, he will have no body to return to. Even then, it doesn't matter all that much, as he can still hold his own in combat without his body. Like when he humiliatingly manages to defeat Hellboy with the BPRD lockers. Even then, he is handily beaten by our top 5, and perhaps Moro if Kraus chooses to fight him. Not great being a gas-like spectre when you're up against a combatant with wind powers. The last 5 are all pretty closely matched, and it was pretty hard deciding which ghost was more powerful than the other. All of these next ghost characters did daring feats that justified their high power level, and if a battle only consisted of these 5, it will most likely be an interesting and intriguing battle. It is with great regret that one of these ghosts has to be the first to fall, and that ghost is... Now, do not get me wrong in the slightest. Ghost Freak is an ambitious and formidable enemy to Ben Tennyson, as he accomplished many feats of evil, which included, but not limited to, possessing Ben Tennyson and Gwen, the latter of which he threatened to jump off a building if Ben didn't comply with his plans.
Then you'd better hope your cousin knows how to fly.
But possession isn't the only ability in his arsenal. He also has tentacles protruding from his chest, which can double as pincers too. He's also armed with sharp claws, can cast telepathic illusions in someone else's mind, disrupt electronics by phasing through them, alter shape into a black wisp, regenerate lost skin, fire energy beams, and cause a stroke while touching someone's brain. I'm not kidding. Ask Thumbskull. He also managed to reform himself with magic and DNA strands multiple times, and the mere feat that he was able to pull off escaping the Omnitrix in the first place proves that Ghost Freak is a cunning and tenacious villain. Though his title of High Ecto-Lord is nothing to sneer at, out of all the ghosts taking the top 5 podium, Ghost Freak has some pretty glaring weaknesses. For starters, his ability to turn intangible depends on his concentration, hence why if caught off guard, he can be harmed. He also can't possess zombies, can be immobilized or damaged by fire, ice and electricity, but his most famous weakness of all is his weakness to sunlight. See, the darker a room gets, the more powerful Ghost Freak gets, so when countered by light, he disintegrates and perishes as a result. Unless he could possess a host.
Like that's ever gonna happen.
If hypothetically the rumble took place during the morning, it'll be certain that he'll be a last place victim. So while Ghost Freak has time and time again proven to be a disturbing foe to anyone, and a personal ghost source substitute of mine, because of his many weaknesses that can easily be exploited by others above and maybe even below, I can't in good conscience put Ghost Freak any more higher. For his placement, it may not be a good idea to judge a book by its cover here.
But make no mistake, the dead are not silent.
While it's true that the soul has no combat abilities at all, he does have a range of other powers that make him stand out and gives him a fighting chance against our other opponents. He has the unique ability of being able to communicate with the dead in order to determine the outcome of a battle. He can also summon zombie soldiers to his aid and can cast illusions when he summons another person to the other side, making him one of, if not the most smartest and tactical ghost on this list. Since he can choose to appear in the living world or the other side, if the soul really wanted to, he can just hang about on the other side until he learns about the tactics of the more powerful characters like Ghost Freak, and send his spirit army of the dead to deal with them. If he had proper combat skills, he probably may have fared a bit better, but his skills as a tactician in battle knows no equal, and knowing him, he probably knows he'll only get as far as 4, all things considered. Taking home a bronze medal today is King Boo. Despite being beaten by a green Italian with a vacuum cleaner more than once, King Boo is one of the most hyper-competent villains in the Super Mario franchise. He can blow people away, open paranormal portals to the ghost dimension, create illusions anywhere, electrify terrain, shoot fireballs, and clone himself. He can also conjure up paintings which can trap other people. And oh boy, that fancy crown ain't for show, as in Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, it can fire a laser that destroys an entire moon. I don't know what royal ritual this Boo ghost had to do to become king, but one thing is for certain. King Boo suddenly doesn't mess around and has succeeded in his plans if you remove Luigi from the equation. Although I am not familiar with this SpongeBob character at all, I am flabbergasted at how the Flying Dutchman is one of the most powerful entities in the Bikini Bottom. Can he get scared easily at times? Yes, but the point I want to drive home is that he is a force to be reckoned with. He grants wishes, makes objects appear out of thin air, and can open portals to banish his enemies. This is where things get complicated though. The Flying Dutchman is a reality warper, and can shapeshift into many horrific forms without needing to absorb a host beforehand. The Flying Dutchman can also make himself stronger the more souls he consumes, kind of like Zhang Xun from Mortal Kombat. But the biggest contributor to his high ranking is that he can rip out his eye and turn into a bomb, and those caught in its blast radius will be sent to the void. Not too shabby for an old pirate geezer, eh? But I personally think there is just one more Nickelodeon ghost character that can take advantage of the situation Mr. Dutchman places him in and grab hold of the gold medal. Cue the music.
He's a phantom.
Being a show focused on ghosts in general, from the main villains to the main protagonist himself, Danny Phantom has had 3 seasons to demonstrate his varied abilities. When going ghost, he has enhanced stamina, durability, strength, and flexibility, and like the twins, can heal faster than humans. He can also fire ghost rays, create a repulsion field, create weapons out of ecto energy, cause shockwaves with a ghost whale, cryokinesis, pyrokinesis, duplication, and body manipulation. And how many powers does this kid have? Already he could defeat some of our contestants in unique ways, but there were some powers in Danny's catalogue that really caught my eye. With the infinite map and the time medallion, Danny was able to travel through time and space itself, and he even carries a Fenton thermals to capture ghosts, rendering them trapped and unable to fight in the battle. But if we were to confiscate items in the arena, then Danny is still covered. Despite his young age compared to other ghosts, he has shown on more than one occasion to quickly learn new abilities, be a skilled strategist and combatant, as well as swordsmanship, marksmanship, and weapons mastery in general. It should definitely go without saying that he can make himself invisible even to other ghosts, and was able to completely reconstitute himself after being reduced to nothing but orange goop. In spite of all his amazing ghost powers and his over-the-top durability, even our gold medalist has some weaknesses of his own. Because of his half-human state, Danny himself can get possessed. His ghost form could even possess other ghosts, and while most occasions he is able to control their abilities, an alternate reality version of Danny Phantom's ghost fused with Vlad's ghost to create Dark Danny, which is still to this day one of Danny Phantom's most dangerous foes he has ever faced. And had he not had a stronger will, he would have become possessed by his alternate self. Even Ghost Freak was able to take control of Ben 10 for an entire episode, and if he's able to possess Danny, I'd have to ring the evacuation alarm. But the reason why my bets go to Danny for winning this battle really boils down to one simple juicy fact. He is experienced in hunting ghosts. Most of our other contestants, despite some of their own unique feats, were all bested by mortal and living combatants once their weaknesses could be discovered. King Boo was defeated by the cowardly Luigi, for crying out loud. So if there was one ghost character who could absolutely excel in this battle, even by process of elimination, it's sure Danny Phantom. Whew. I have to say, even though I covered less characters in this countdown, it was a million times harder determining which one was the most powerful. All of these ghosts pretty much had the same basic abilities, and aside from Danny Phantom, who can at least harm ghosts, it was really debatable whether these ghosts could really attack each other or not, so I had to hypothetically imagine that they can throughout writing this video. But if you made it this far, thank you for watching. Is there a ghost character I missed that could potentially top Danny Phantom? I'm open to any opinions. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you all in the next video, and happy Halloween.